This is a Human Resources Committee meeting of the City of Wisconsin Rapids, July 14, 2020. Meeting is scheduled for 4:30. It's 4:33 right now. In the council chambers here, and I'll introduce myself. My name is Thad Kubishak. I'm chairperson of Human Resources Committee, and we'll go around the room counterclockwise. Everybody introduce yourself, please.
Scott Kellogg, alderperson.
Joe Zerflu, committee member, alderperson.
Jay Bemke, alderman.
Shane Blazer, mayor.
So we've got all committee members in attendance. Item number 2, discuss and consider approval of proposed changes to the employee dress code policy. And Ms. Poggle, I'll have you address that.
Got it. Now, can you hear me? Perfect. So again, going from business-like to casual, putting that definition, making that change, and then adding some examples of appropriate and acceptable attire, and that would be just definition shirts, tops for both men and women, remain modest, cover chest, stomach, shoulders, T-shirts with slogans. So what we're trying to avoid is potentially inappropriate types of language on there, but if somebody wants to wear an Under Armour T-shirt or like an Adidas T-shirt like you have, that's appropriate, but we don't want any of the other things there. So athletic workout clothing cannot be worn. So that's what we're really looking at, is adding that. The next, where it's deleted, I actually just move that down a line. And then the other big thing, obviously, would be then to take out bullet point 3 on the last page, where it was only casual on Fridays. So it would be business casual, the ability to wear jeans every day. So that's the change that we're looking at making for the dress code and appearance.
Deb, do you know, have or anybody, for that matter, staff members or anybody even on the council, has dress code really ever been a concern as anybody? Not that I don't want to change this, because I mean, if we can make something work, you know, I don't think that we should be handcuffed to, you know, a standard from 50 years ago. But is that ever a concern, or is that something that both municipalities as well as the business sector have been kind of laxing a little bit then?
Yeah, a lot of organizations have gone to a business casual where you can wear jeans any day and just dress appropriate if you're going out for a meeting or if you're doing something, just dress appropriate. And again, this would be, you'll see that it talks about specific departments. So the street department would have their requirements of what they wear, and you know, they never would really be dressed up to go out on the street anyway. So this is really just more about putting a little bit more definition to what that looks like, so we don't have any issues, as well as just being able to wear jeans anytime. And yeah, it's, a lot of organizations have become quite lax.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Poggle at all? Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, or kind of add to it, that I think it more reflects the way we are addressing or appearing at work, or appearances. I think it just reflects more so the way we actually do business.
If there's no other questions, comments, or anything for the committee, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to change the dress code policy, accept the changes to the dress code policy.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Bemke, a second by Mr. Zerflu. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Ayes carry with 3-0. We'll go on to item number 3. Discuss and consider approval of proposed changes to the policy regarding communications for employee memorial services. Ms. Poggle, can you also talk about this?
You bet. So just recommending a few changes. The old policy really stated that a memorial would be sent whenever, a memorial would be sent for a hospitalization of an employee or an elected official for a serious health illness. And with HIPAA, we really don't know a lot about that, so we're recommending just taking that out because we haven't had the practice of sending flowers and sending things. So, and adding a little bit of language where we would say, it's the policy of the City of Wisconsin Rapids to send flowers or a memorial for the death of an employee, elected official, their spouse, child, or parent. In the event of the death of a retired employee or elected official or their spouse, a memorial will be sent whenever practical. Because sometimes we don't know for 3 months afterwards. So does it really make sense if we're notified? So we just want a little flexibility from that standpoint, and then eliminate the or hospitalization of an employee or elected official for a serious health injury, and that's because of HIPAA. And in bullet point 2, right now we have a $35 to $45 limit, and we're recommending that we just put something in there to say not to exceed $75. That gives some flexibility because you can't get a plant for $35 anymore. So those are the only 2 changes that we're looking at doing.
Thank you. I think my organization, the Ironworkers, we do just a funeral thing. So that would be kind of, I guess, concurrent, yeah, and would be kind of a HIPAA concern for if someone's in the hospital. Is there any questions, concerns by the committee or anybody else for Ms. Poggle? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the changes as presented.
Motion by Zerflu, second by Bemke on the floor to approve the changes presented to us. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes carry 3-0. We'll move on to item number 4, discuss and consider approval of proposed changes to the wage and salary policy.
Yes. I have something that I'm going to give everybody a copy of our current wage structure here. So what you see is the policy under 11 in the policy manual, salary increases and additional pay. Bullet point A, non-union employees below the midpoint of their range, step 6 will receive a step increase on the annual anniversary of the employment provided performance is meeting expectations as an indication in the performance evaluation until the midpoint of the salary range, step 6, is achieved. So what ends up happening is when someone gets to a step 6, which is the market, technically they aren't able to get any type of an increase. But what I handed out to you is your salary structure that goes all the way up to a grade 11. Nowhere in the history could I find any information of why it stops at a step 6. As opposed to allowing someone to move throughout your salary structure. So for example, your finance director who's been here 20 plus years gets maxed out at the market and isn't even able to go up to the step 11. So what I'm recommending is that there at least starts discussion whether or not we move forward and take it to council tonight, but to start thinking about it, because what happens within a couple of years, people are maxed out, you start to have a lot of compression, and you're not even using your salary structure. So you have half of it that's not being used. And the way that your salary structure is set up, I was talking to the mayor about this, is usually from the market, which is your midpoint, your step 6, 20% below that is where your minimum should fall, and 20% above that is where your maximum should fall. And the way that you're set up is 13% below your market is where your minimum is, and 13% above is where your maximum is. So you're already very compressed in the way that your structure is set up. And then to stop people from advancing past a 6 causes some real issues. And we see that with compression. You also have some structural issues in the entry level of your structure. You have about 7% between each salary grade, which is the way you're supposed to do it. And then when you go up in salary grades, you're supposed to have a bigger progression between, and you're at about 2%. So what happens then is you get a promotion, and if you've been in your job for a while and you get a promotion to the next salary grade, it's only 2% difference between your salary structures. So part of what I wanted to bring forward is to potentially just act on, for the budget year, of removing that requirement of stopping at a step 6 and allowing them to use the whole structure, because again, there's only a certain amount of budgeted dollars, so people can't go willy-nilly and start to do all these elaborate increases, but it would allow progression into your current structure until we have the opportunity to go out and do a market study and really evaluate where you are. So that was the purpose of putting it on the agenda, to have some discussion on that.
And then I guess just for a little bit further, can you, because we had talked in the past here, and you do have valuable experience in charts like this. Can you, just for the audience at home and maybe the committee too, with your recommendation from this, it isn't like you're pulling kind of concepts out of thin air. You've actually done market studies in the past.
Yeah, I've got 20 years of experience. I just helped Clark County, before I started working with you, put their whole structure together, which was very similar to yours, step-based. So I have a lot of experience in that. That was my area of expertise when I was working at Whiffley and Shank. So,
does anybody have any questions, concerns on this particular thing? I think Deb mentioned that this is going to be more of a process rather than an actual up and down type of vote, yes or no right now. We want to make sure that we get it right, and we want to make sure that we fix kind of a broken, I guess, wage scale that we've gotten here. Is there an onus in approving something tonight, or was this more just kind of a discussion, not really an action?
this is a discussion to start to think about it, because we're starting to go into the budget process. And we've been restrictive, especially if people are at that step 6. And we stop them within your structure. So sometime within the next month or 2, it should be brought to council. We're not talking about changing the overall structure yet at this point, but really just eliminating that requirement that once they get to a step 6, then they have to stop. So
Can you, and I guess the mayor has got the authority to do that, but from now until the next committee meeting, can you elaborate a little bit more, make kind of like a couple recommendations? We could either do A, B, C, or D, and then that would be the next step in this, without spending a tremendous amount of time, just kind of put something together saying, you guys could do this, you could do that, you'll be eliminating the compression this way, and having some type of, I guess, options or something for us.
Sure. Well, and that would be part of doing a much broader scope.
Sure.
So really what we're looking at is just because it's not even going to eliminate compression yet. That's just a first step of that. So that would be what I would put out there, is to say, just have further discussion on, I'm not even sure why it was put in there. I can't find any history on anything. And if you have a structure that goes up to step 11, just using your structure for the discretion of budgeting and for other things. We're not even recommending making any changes to the structure overall. It's just making a change to just remove that once they get to a step 6.
Eliminating that arbitrary decision that was made at one time in the past.
Right. That's really the recommendation for this. And then down the road, if you decide to do a market study and reevaluate, because once you start to make a few adjustments, it'll have a big impact on your whole structure. This will have no impact on the structure. It's just going to say, you know what, you don't have to stop at step 6. We'll just allow until we can get a structure analysis to be able to just use what we currently have. So
Sure. Is there any questions, concerns, anything by the committee? Mr. Zerflu?
No, I just want to say I agree with everything she just said. They get to the market rate and then we were stopping them. And I expressed issues with this like 2 years ago, but, and I know it's nothing that we should probably just fix because there are budget concerns with it, but this is like saying, the position you're applying for has this, pay range, but that's not actually really accurate when you can't progress past here. And so where's the reward, where's the buy-in that you get, for spending 20 years at a municipality or an employer, so. I'm glad that this is hopefully going to be moved on at some point.
Any other questions,
I
concerns? Mr. Bemke?
Where does it say in the policy that they can't go beyond step 6?
It's under that first thing where they hit to step 6 that I read. I got to find it in my notes. Until they reach step 6.
Until they reach step 6, but it doesn't say that they can't go beyond that, or is that what that means?
That's what that means.
Okay.
That's what your practice is. So if you look at even your tracking data in the wage stuff that I looked at, there's a few people that are very long-term that might be at a step 7 component of it, and there's been a few outliers, but for the most part, longer-term people, everybody is maxed at, it stops at a 6.
Okay, thank you.
So with that, I guess, Mr. Zerflu, if you're comfortable with moving ahead, I wouldn't have a problem. I'll make a motion to approve this.
I'll second it. I hope we do something about it.
Any further discussion? Ms. Sushil, City Attorney, Ms. Sushil.
I mean, so if someone's been here 20 years, they're at a 6, then they're going to go to a 7.
From a budget standpoint,
Right, and the person that was only here a year, that was at 6, was only going to go to 7. So there's no, that's all that's happening.
correct, because right now, we can't take care of the compression that's happened. We're just going to say, go forward, we'll have that, so, and then part of the market study would probably make some adjustment.
Some people that are at 11s and 12s, like, in public safety, when they then move a step. So you're not at a 6 people.
You're not necessarily even going to move to a step 7. It'll be part of the budget process that they'll have that ability, as we're looking at it from the budget standpoint, is what I'm just recommending is just take that away so that you can use your whole structure. And if somebody comes in with 15 years of experience, maybe you can bring them in at a step 6 or a step 7 and as part of the structure, as opposed to being more regimented. Right. Right. And we're not saying that people are automatically going to move, and we'll have to put some policy and procedure around how we're going to administer it and implement it. It's just, first of all, we have to get that removed, and then we can put some guidance behind what that would look like, so people don't assume that they're automatically going to go to a 7 or an 8 or a 9 or things like that. So for purposes of it is just removing that limitation, and then we'll put policy and structure around what that's going to look like.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think you can just move someone 6 steps.
Right.
It's the unfortunate fact that this was done wrong to begin with, but at least we'll fix it from here.
Right. And what will happen is if you do a market study, some of that will come out to play in that, and then you'll have 4 or 5 different scenarios. Because again, if you have a market study that says these few people or these positions are undervalued, you'll have to make a decision. Do we have to incrementally get them to where they should be? Do we do a market adjustment? That's all data-driven, and that would be all of the different things that you would take a look at it. But I just believe the first step is just, let's not have that limitation of 6, and then look at where people fall, and then as you go through and create a different structure, because you have too many salary grades anyway. A lot of that stuff will work itself out within the next year to 2 years when you do that study, but just by opening that up, and then we just have to provide clarity, as Attorney Schill said, is that we don't want people to have an automatic assumption that, oh, now I'm going to automatically go to a 7. No, we're going to look at making a market adjustment and where the approval is and how much is there from a budget standpoint. We just don't have that stop point.
Attorney Schill, does that answer your question then? Okay. Anybody else have any further questions, concerns? You do?
I do.
Okay, Mr. Bemke.
So is this all based on market and years of service, and is there,
I have no idea what it's based on. I didn't create the structure.
so going forward, are you recommending that it's based on market alone, market and performance? I mean, is there,
It will be, it'll be market-driven, because that's the value of the position, but what we'll also do is create some sort of a tool that I've used that creates internal equity, because not every position is in the market, but then it will take it and say, you know, if here's what the market is, and I come in with 2 years, I shouldn't be at the market. I should be somewhere around 90%, 85% to the market. If I come in with 15 years of experience, you're probably going to need to bring me in higher than the market. So that's a longer term, but that's how structures are set up, is that midpoint, which is your step 6, is the market. Below that is below market, above it, again, and it's typically a 20% spread on each side. Yours is pretty narrow, that's why you feel some of the compression. It doesn't take them long. If you're getting 3%, 4%, whatever that might be, it doesn't take long to get to the market, and then they just stop.
thank you.
Very good questions. It's very complex, but I just see this as something that you can do relatively easy. Again, it's still from a budgeting standpoint. We're not moving people up steps. We're just taking that cap off, and then we'll work around policies and procedures after that.
There's a motion on the floor, second, with no other discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, 3-0. We'll move on to item number 5, discuss and consider approval of an extension to the city, to the emergency sick leave policy.
You want me to handle that, too?
Yeah.
It's really just changing the date. Everyone should have that we're looking at just changing the date to extend it to the end of September versus April, so.
And then the date was, how come, what is the deal with the date? Is that what the county?
COVID didn't end.
Oh, yeah. Oh, but I
So-
mean, is it like a directive from the Wood County Health Department?
Nope,
then, or-
nope, that is just something from that City Hall that was put in place by the previous mayor to accommodate anything that might happen as a result of COVID. Because COVID is still where it's at, we're just recommending that we look at extending that.
Anyone have any questions, concerns on the committee or anybody else?
No, this extends it to September 30th. I think that's unfortunately going to go on at least that long.
Yeah, we might be having this discussion again the end of September.
Yeah, the only thing for certain is that it's uncertain times right now.
Right.
Any discussion, anything? Attorney Schill?
Just one thing I thought of is, when we did this last time, we actually were supposed to bargain this with our public safety unions. So I guess if you could add that, this would also apply to public safety unions, and we can just extend that, we just going to talk about it. And you would also then that's happened.
So
Yes.
I don't think there's a motion. I'll make a motion to approve this extension. And I guess if not everyone heard it, then to also have this apply to the public safety unions as well.
Is there a second? Motion on the floor by Mr. Zerflu, second by Mr. Bemke, to approve the extension of the emergency sick leave policy to September 30th, 2020, with including the 2 public service unions, collective bargaining organizations. Motion on the floor, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, 3-0. We will actually, unless I have an objection, we're going to flip-flop a couple of these items. Actually, item number 8, we were supposed to go to item number 6. Item number 6 is a closed session, and item number 7 would be opening back up. Item number 8 is discussion on employee recruitment. Item number 9 is adjournment. I would like to take the item 8, discussion on employee recruitment, put it ahead of the closed session so that we could potentially adjourn in closed session. Does anybody have any questions, concerns with that? Okay, so then with that being said, we're going to go to, from item number 5, which we just voted on, to item number 8, discussion on employee recruitment.
You bet.
Deb?
So we are reviewing applications for the laborer position. We received about 200 applications for that position, so quite a few there. We are still continuing to recruit for the design engineer, kind of a difficult position, so we're going to take a step back and look at the strategy of how we're going with that. We did make an offer to someone for the HR director, but they've declined. So we want to have some further discussion in closed session on some of the things that we want to take a look at within the structure. So that's where we are with recruitment. There was the Parks and Rec Supervisor position was offered and accepted. And we also have our other supervisor, street supervisor, that's been in the role. So don't have a lot of positions open at this point.
Any questions, concerns on employee recruitment by anybody? Hearing no, we will move on to item number 6. The committee may vote to go into closed session pursuant to section 19.85, subparent 1, subparent C of the Wisconsin statutes, which reads, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. And in closed session, the committee may discuss candidates for vacant positions. No action will be taken. With that being said, I'll make a motion to enter into closed session, and we'll have a roll call vote. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Bemke. All those in favor, Mr. Zerflu, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Bemke, how do you vote? And I, Chairperson Kubaschak, vote aye. We are now entered into closed session.